Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if smart Naruto build legendary harem with Tayuya and Hinata, part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this and comment for next part. And now let's start the fanfic. Naruto could admit that he was lots of things. Stubborn, hot-headed, and a bit of a loud mouth. But so too could he honestly say that he was willing to put in all the hard work necessary when needed. You didn't get to paint the Hokage monument after all without having some skill after all. That being said, after his sensei had dismissed his team early after another dull day of team training, Naruto really was beginning to think they were being shafted. They could sort of work together sure, but they weren't learning anything. No jutsu, no skills, hell, even Dog Breath was talking about the awesome stuff his teacher was showing them. Not that he was into eavesdropping. Not at all. Frustrated and ready for the day to be over, Naruto shoved his hands in his jacket pockets and made his way home. Maybe old man Tayuya would have a story or two for him. Course set for ramen, Naruto set off. The sun was still decently high in the sky and there was a good breeze that rustled through the trees around him. As he got into the village proper he wanted to enjoy the outside as much as possible. Though with the looks the villagers sent his way as he started making his way through the crowd that hope was dashed as well. Pulling his jacket tighter but keeping a wide smile on his face, Naruto focused on nothing else but hitting the ramen stand. Tayuya had been around for a decent amount of time in this village, from the last war to the Kyuubi attack till now. He'd heard some crazy stories and served everyone from civilians to Hokages. That said, watching Naruto drag himself into his stand to sit with a bright but fake smile on his face never sat well with him. Already working on and preparing a miso ramen for the kid, he'd lend an ear just as he always did. How's it going, Naruto? Another hard day of training. If you could call it that. I wanna train, but Kakashi-sensei says training too much would be just as bad as not training enough. Secretly, Naruto got the feeling that Kakashi didn't want to train them at all. Well, why don't you go train on your own then? Ayame poked her head out from the back where she was preparing more broth, ever chipper and happy to see the young blonde. She was like an older sister Naruto never had. That'd be great if I knew what to train in. Sure, I can work out for hours and hours, but that's it, and I can only do so much of that in one day. Why don't you get scrolls from the library? You're a genin now, aren't you? Tayuya mentioned offhandedly as he remembered several previous genin and chunin mentioning the ninja library. I didn't think about it, while school hadn't been the greatest for him as it was full of teachers who either saw a demon not worth training, or eventually a knucklehead who only wanted attention. No one had mentioned being able to go in the library once he was a genin. He had tried once while in the academy and been turned away, but maybe it'd be different now. Placing a bowl down and looking out at the high sun, the old proprietor nodded, maybe give it a shot. If your sensei is giving you lots of free time, maybe he's waiting for you to take some initiative. Tayuya had seen it before. Nodding and already working on his first bowl, Naruto figured he could at least give it a shot. No matter what anyone thought of him, he could sit down and read when needed. He had learned the Kage Bushin in a single night after all. Going over the idea some more, already downing and working on a second bowl now, Naruto nodded to himself and decided it was off to the library then. Watching the boy work through several bowls before laying down money and wishing them both a good day, Tayuya had a smile on his face as at least now the smile on the boy's face looked a little more genuine. Shaking himself and welcoming a team into his stand, he put it in his mind to check up on the boy next time he came by. Naruto, however, was all but sprinting through town, dodging through people and other ninja alike, as at the least he could either get this out of the way and get good news, or get rejected and spend the rest of the night working out and beating the crap out of a training post. Moving from the market district and coming up closer to the Hokage Tower, it wasn't much longer where along an unmarked red and tan building he found the library itself. High windows and a clean exterior, Naruto put faith in that hopefully things would be different this time. Pushing open the door and walking in, he was met with silence with a heavy smell of paper and wood. There was a reception desk ahead of him, and ignoring the odd tingle that ran through him, he walked up to a stern-looking woman at the desk. Hello. His voice cracked at the worst time and he really sounded more timid than he wanted to, but the woman looked him up and down all the same. First time in here, yes. Adjusting thin GL while consulting a book on her desk, she pushed aside a scroll and looked at something out of his sight while Naruto nodded. Genin are allowed everything unrestricted D rank and below. C rank scrolls and books are allowed with either sensei or Hokage approval. Under normal circumstances anything B rank and above is not allowed to genin outside of very special circumstances. Noise is to be kept to a minimum and there will be no jutsu practice inside. Training scrolls can be released, but copying of scrolls is out of the question. Looking at the boy in front of her, the older black-haired woman raised an eyebrow. Any questions? He had a ton for the tall but rail-thin woman, but decided to keep it to the basics for now. He was already happy enough that he would be allowed in. My sensei leaves me on my own a lot. Do you have an area for training scrolls? Nodding and motioning behind her and to her left, his right, she pointed down a dark hallway. Training scrolls for basic jutsu, chakra control, and jutsu theory are that way. Again, keep to your rank. Your Hitai 8 was pinged as soon as you walked in, so we'll know if you pick something up that you aren't supposed to, understand? That's why you didn't ask for my id. Wait, what else did you ping? That was new, he didn't know they could id him with just his headband. Blinking for a moment, the woman looked him over again before nodding. This is a protected building, so as soon as you walked through the door you were checked for genjutsu, Hitai 8 forgery, or cosmetic applications. Anything else? Shaking his head in the negative, Naruto walked past the reception desk and made his way down quiet rows of bookshelves and desks. There weren't many people in here today it seemed, and the few that were present were all head deep in books or scrolls. Sakura probably comes here a lot. Muttering to himself, Naruto paid attention to the labels on the shelves he walked by. Training scrolls, training. Finding the section he wanted, he started browsing down the rows with carefully labeled scrolls and books. Realizing just how many there were, he decided to stick to what he kind of knew and work from there. He had already been warned he couldn't go straight for the high-level stuff, but maybe there were some D-level scrolls that could help him out. Walking further down this particular row and finding the D-rank training scrolls and seeing multiple copies of everything, Naruto browsed a bit before picking out 4 that might be able to help him out. It didn't take him nearly as long to reach the front desk again, where he presented the scrolls to the bookkeeper. Can I take these? Taking the scrolls and looking them over, the woman nodded. Chakra control, clone theory, and basic exploding tag seals. Boys and their explosions. Looking him over again, she handed them back. If I may ask, why the clone theory? Caught off guard as he wasn't prepared for anyone to be interested in his actual thoughts, he let a small grin hit his face. I've never been able to make normal clones, but I can make shadow clones. So I wanted to see if maybe there was a reason why. Wait, you can make shadow clones? At Naruto's nod, the woman frowned. If you would, show me please. Shrugging and putting the scrolls back on the desk, Naruto formed the cross-shaped seal and pumped chakra into it. With a puff of smoke, there stood a dozen copies, along with the appearance of several ninja with frantic looks. Tanaka-san, is everything okay? Waving the group off, the now named Tanaka nodded. Everything is fine. I asked him to demonstrate his skill. Please, go back to your duties. Sighing as the group of 5 elder ninja blurred away the librarian's side and handed all the scrolls back to Naruto. Some advice, if you would like it. Naruto nodded. Sure. Dispelling his clones, he was absolutely ready to get out of here. Did your teacher mention the special skill of the shadow clones, or did you learn this on your own? On my own. Then no one has probably mentioned to you. but shadow clones have the special ability of sharing information. Anything a clone learns, you'll learn once they are dispelled. That also includes chakra control and techniques. Just something to keep in mind. Giving the genin an appraising eye, she would have to make a visit to an old monkey once her shift was over today. Suddenly learning that his one good skill was even more super awesome than he thought, Naruto was beaming as he bowed to the woman who actually took some time to teach him something. Thanks Tanaka-san. When do I need to have these scrolls back? Waving the boy away, she was already turning back to her work with a smile on her face. Those are D-rank scrolls, keep them as long as you need, but usually we'd like them back within a month. But if you do lose or damage them, it isn't such a big deal. At least the boy was polite, she noted as he waved and ran out the door. Naruto was only focused on one thing at the moment though, and that was that he had the chance to do something finally. He would be training properly now. Oh, he was going to be busy this week for sure. Kakashi was a lot of things he knew, a pervert, lazy, constantly lost. But he generally always had an idea of what he was getting himself into. That said, today, as he strolled into practice at his usual 3 hours late, he was met with an odd sight. Sasuke was fuming, which normally wouldn't be that odd, but it wasn't directed at him, which was. Sakura was fawning over Sasuke, which wasn't new, so that he could ignore. But multiple copies of Naruto running up and down trees while hopefully the real one was doing push-ups with a rock on his back was not something he expected to see. Seeing though that everyone was here, Kakashi clapped his hands with an eye smile. All right everyone, let's get to our mission for the day. Kakashi-sensei, you're late. Sakura was as always, predictable. Clones popping and shrugging off the rock, a sweating Naruto jogged up to the group. About time sensei, what are we doing today? Motioning for the kids to follow him, Kakashi pulled out his favorite book, the usual, another D-rank mission, followed by team drills. Then you're off on your own. The 3 genin following along behind him, Sasuke in the middle with Sakura and Naruto on either side of him, they made their way to the tower. Sasuke had his hands deep in his pockets while Sakura continued to pester him over some gossip overheard by Ino and the village busybodies. Naruto had his arms crossed behind his head while he walked, for once not inclined to bother the Pinkett. He had trained all night at their training ground before passing out, then waking up and starting up again before anyone else had shown up. At first he had started with clone theory, sure that somewhere in the scroll he might find the secret as to why he couldn't do a basic clone. But after reading through it all, the answer wasn't any better than he already had a feeling for. It all came down to control that he didn't have. Sure, he could pump chakra for days, but even he knew that he used way too much. So instead that had moved him to chakra control exercises. He ignored the simple ones that explained holding leaves to parts of his bodies and instead moved on to harder ones. That was what he worked on all night, and this morning, the tree climbing. Using chakra to stick to solid surfaces sounded super useful, both for ninja stuff and for pranks. So he trained and trained, dispelling clones after so long to learn what they knew and creating new ones to continue the process. The first thing he learned was that dispelling too many clones all at once was a quick way to guarantee a big headache for himself. So for now he limited himself to groups of 20 or less. Maybe as he got better he'd be able to do more at once. The ideas were already churning in his head. Already at the mission collection desk and retrieving their mission for the day, Kakashi was doing his best to ignore the distracted and muttering Uzumaki. While he was happy at least one of his students was taking initiative, being truly distracted wasn't a good thing. He'd have to clue the kid in on how to keep at least partial attention to his surroundings. Thank you, Hokage-sama. Is there anything else? Yes, actually. Naruto-kun, could you stay for a moment? The elderly ninja was decked out in his white and red Hokage robes today, hat firmly planted on his head. To either side of him, Chunin assistants were helping sort and distribute missions along with him. Feeling Kakashi nudge him and break his train of thought, Naruto came out of his daze to see that they were already at the tower. Oh, what's that? Chuckling and shaking his head, stay behind Naruto, I need a word with you. Watching the boy nod, Kakashi steered Sasuke and Sakura away. We'll be just outside Naruto. We're after Tora again today. Without another word, the masked ninja moved to guide his students out the door. Turning his now full attention to the elder Hokage, Naruto put his hands in his pockets and grinned, "What's up, old man? Ready to recognize my greatness?" Sighing at Naruto's antics, Sarutobi shook his head, "No, Naruto, though I did get some news yesterday. You showed off your clone technique at the library, yes. While not exactly against the rules, the employees there were very nervous with any jutsu used within their halls." "Ah, yeah, am I in trouble for that? Tanaka-san asked me to show I could do it after all." While it wouldn't have been the first time someone had tricked him in order to make him look bad, it really would if the librarian was someone who would be on the hate Naruto train. No, but I have something for you." Handing over a small but sealed scroll to the boy, who took it without a word and backed away, the Hokage nodded, "I'm giving you access to C-rank chakra control exercises and clone theory only. Nothing more. Considering your position, I thought it might help you to get ahead on those subjects. Nothing else for now, understand? I can revoke your access and make you wait until Chunin like everyone else at any time." Giving the boy a stern look, his weathered skin pulling in a way that made Naruto shake his head quickly. "No way, just what you've told me I can look at and nothing else. I'll be good." Not wanting to give up this good fortune, Naruto pocketed the scroll and saluted, "Anything else, old man?" Waving the boy off as the next team was walking in, Sarutobi shook his head, "Be on your way then, and I'll be watching you." Leaving the boy with that cryptic message, the aging man watched as Naruto turned and jogged out of the room. Outside was bright, and while Naruto didn't have to look hard to find his team, somehow everything felt better today. "Sorry, I'm here now." Seeing his teacher nod, they all turned to complete their turn of hunting down the dreaded demon cat of Konoha. Today found Team 7 early in the morning and waiting for their errant sensei to show up from wherever his latest excuse put him this time. Sasuke had taken to following Naruto's example but was training his great fireball technique, while Naruto's clones were again continuing chakra control exercises on the trees. Naruto himself was doing something that even had Sakura trying to puzzle him out. And that, Naruto had a scroll open and was repeatedly writing something down. Around him were another dozen clones doing the same. Walking over to stand over one of them, Sakura tilted her head and the vaguely familiar scrawl, "What's that, Naruto?" Not looking up from what he was doing, Naruto, or a clone of him at least, continued his work while answering his crush, trying to make exploding tags. Confused as to why he would go through that effort at all, Sakura stood up straight with her hands on her hips. "Couldn't you just buy a bunch of those? Why learn how to make them? That's what everyone else did after all, and they worked just fine." Deciding explaining to the girl that some shops still didn't want to sell things to him and that it would be dumb expensive if he was able to buy the amount he needed for what he had planned, he instead went with a more bookish answer. "If I learn how to make them, I can make traps with them besides just using paper bombs." Nodding at the actual thoughtful answer, Sakura walked away. "If you say so, I think you're just wasting your time. Sasuke could just blow everyone away with his fireball anyway." Strutting away from the loudmouth blonde, Sakura's curiosity was sated for now. "Yada. Think I got it." One of his clones, or maybe that was the real Naruto, began putting some chakra into the seal he made on a scrap of paper in his excitement. Wait, not so close, you idiot." Another Naruto cried out while a more aware clone grabbed the now freaking out copy holding the paper tag by the jacket. "Sorry buddy." Heaving and tossing the clone up and over the trees, the explosion sent a blast wave that rocked the training ground and knocked leaves from the trees above them all. All movement and training stopped with Sasuke and Sakura turning irritated looks at the nervously grinning blonde. I did it. We can see that, you knucklehead." Sakura was always quick to show off her impressive lungs, Naruto noted. "Dobi. Going back to his own training, Sasuke put the blonde out of his mind. He could train all he liked, but an Uchiha would always be better than him. Shrugging while sorting through the memories, Naruto dispelled his tag-making group before remaking a new one. Alright guys, practice makes perfect. And if you make a tag, run off a bit before setting it off, okay? Hi. Getting a chorus of responses, they all set to work. This was what Kakashi walked into this morning, a disgruntled Sakura and slightly exhausted Sasuke watching as a procession of Narutos ran off towards the lake only to explode in spectacular fashion. Shaking his head and clapping his hands together, Kakashi got everyone's attention. Sorry everyone, a black cat tried to cross my path, so I had to find a new route where I ran into this snake that tried to bite me. But I'm here now. Liar. Sakura, and for once even Sasuke joined in on her finger pointing. Huh, that couldn't bode well for him, could it? Ma, common now, let's go get our mission and we'll end early for today, nay. Smiling as his cute students all formed up before him, they all turned and started heading for the tower. Naruto idly dispelled his clones while pocketing his seal-making tools in his thigh pouch. Before making his now very familiar seal and creating an even larger group of clones that ran back to the training ground. Kakashi raised an eyebrow and watched the clones run off. What's that about, Naruto-kun? Ah, I have something of a project I wanted to try out, but I can't do it with everyone at the training ground. It's not having to answer as an explosion rocked the area and everyone turned to look at the Uzumaki sharply. Hey, explosions are cool. Sighing and turning away, Kakashi nodded, just don't overdo it, okay? We need you all in one piece, not scattered all over the Fire Nation. It wasn't long after that the team had all made it to the tower, picked up their next lackluster mission, and were on their way to the east side fields to help with some weeding for civilian farmers. All of the genin wanted to complain, but after their first few attempts, and Naruto getting swatted for trying to use clones, they all relented and got to work. Sakura had already given up on keeping her dress clean, eventually covered up to the knees in dirt and grass. Sasuke and Naruto weren't much better after too long, though somehow Naruto shivered from time to time, which Kakashi figured was a clone exploding and sending its memories back to him. Shrugging at the teenager's antics, Kakashi returned to his book and watched as the sun rose past noon and slowly began to sink in the sky. The more experienced ninja mentally lamented that it was probably too much to ask for every day to be this peaceful. But at least these kids didn't have to go through what he and his team did. At least not if he could help it. The day coming to an end on its own, the team reported their mission complete and went their separate ways. Sakura trying to follow Sasuke home and pester him for a date, and Naruto now heading back to the training field instead of going to his empty apartment. It was as he returned to the now empty training ground and sat down in the middle of it that he pulled a new training scroll from his pocket to begin reading. After getting the go-ahead from Gigi, he had made it a point to return his last set of scrolls and left with only 2 new ones. A book on basic seals, where he was working on the first set of his exploding tags, and a scroll about the Shunshin. He hadn't realized that the jutsu was only AD rank, but after reading the description on it he sort of got it. Sure, he could move really fast and appear wherever he could see or knew. But it left him open for a moment if he wasn't prepared. However, if he had a clone do it, that vulnerability became a moot issue. Especially if the clone was supposed to be caught. Reading and memorizing the scroll over the next half hour, Naruto stashed it away before filling the clearing with clones. Alright, we have all night, let's get this technique down pat by morning. Yosh. It was going to be a long night for the boy. Contrary to what his students thought, Kakashi wasn't always the late one to team meetings. In fact, he was usually the first. He liked to watch them, see if they were in fact there on time, or slacking off. While at first he had been worried as they did nothing but wait for him for hours on end, he was slightly proud that at least one of them had started taking the time to start training on his own. Though, now as he looked at an exhausted but snoring Uzumaki, Kakashi felt he should probably step in this once. Hopping from the trees and walking over to a battered but whole Naruto, his sensei squatted down to shake the boy by his shoulder. Naruto, wake up, the ground isn't your bed. 5 more minutes, Kakashi-sensei, I promise. It took a moment for Naruto to wake up slightly and another one to realize he wasn't at home again. Bleary eyes opened to an eye-smiling sensei and a just past dawn training ground. Looking around and seeing his teammates not around, Naruto let his head thump heavily on the dirt. I overdid it, didn't I? Nodding and standing up straight, Kakashi sighed, you did. Do you think you're up for a mission today? Standing slowly with a groan and stretching to work out the kinks in his muscles, Naruto nodded with slowly building enthusiasm. I'll run off and get some morning ramen, and I'll be good to go. Already turning to leave, he was forced to pause as Kakashi stopped him with a hand on his shoulder. Alright, wait a minute, time to be a sensei for a minute. Sit down and listen to me, alright? Watching the boy do just as he asked, listening to the stern tone for once, Kakashi nodded in approval. I have new training rules for you, and I expect you to follow them, got it? Come on, sensei. I'm fine, honest. Finally feeling like he was catching up, the attention-starved boy didn't want to slow down now. I'm not going to tell you to stop training, but no more all-nighters. You need to be in bed by 10 and you can't be at the training ground before 7 unless it's for a mission. Got it? Seeing the boy give a dejected nod, he continued, you have to give your body and your mind time to rest and heal. You won't make good progress if you don't. Also, after missions and training with the team, you need to give yourself at least 2 hours of downtime before starting up your evening training, got it? You need more than just ninja training in your life. That was a lesson Kakashi had learned too late, but he could pass on that bit of life lesson to the boy. Fine, I'll tone it down. Anything else? I'm glad you asked. Opening a storage seal behind his back, Kakashi presented a basket full of fruits and vegetables. With the amount of training you're doing, ramen isn't enough, we need to balance out your diet. I know you haven't had someone to explain nutrition to you, but you're going to be a shorty forever if you don't start eating better. Plus, you'll never put on any muscle either, get it? Even more dejected but willing to listen to his sensei that actually seemed to be trying for once, Naruto nodded one last time. Okay, I'll start eating better. Trying to at least. He hadn't said ramen was out, just that he needed to eat other stuff too. Good, now off you go. I don't want to see you back here for at least 2 hours. Plus, Kakashi figured, it'd irritate his other 2 students to see Naruto late as well. They needed to relax some. Ignoring his sensei as he pulled free his pervy book and disappeared into the trees, Naruto himself made a half-ram sign and disappeared into a swirl of leaves, basket in hand. Not more than a few moments later, Naruto was walking through his front door with a yawn and a frown. Guess I gotta eat some cruddy rabbit food and take a quick nap before heading back. His stomach deciding to grumble loudly in that moment, he would admit that he was hungry enough to ignore the fact that what he had wasn't ramen. That didn't mean he couldn't grab a quick snack on the way back to the team meeting. Thought in mind, Naruto set about putting his basket of groceries on the table before heading to his room to shower and change. It wouldn't do to show back up smelling like one of the Inuzuka dogs after all. After cleaning up and changing into a new outfit, he was back to making a quick breakfast of eggs and toast, with some added vegetables from what his sensei had graciously given him. Complain he would, but he wouldn't waste food, ever. Carefully folding his eggs into a neat omelet, he placed everything on a plate on his table before putting the dirty pan back on the stove. Not as carefully as he should have, as some hot oil splashed out and into the still-going flame. Shutting the flame off and patting out the small fire with his jacket, Naruto had to groan at the singed sleeve of his coat. Already knowing he wasn't about to put his dirty jacket back on, he ripped this one off and decided today was a t-shirt day. Putting the rest of his gifted groceries away in his fridge and scarfing down his quickly made breakfast, It wasn't even an hour later before he was headed back out of the door and towards the Ichiraku's stand, a spare black jacket now over his shoulders and open, showing his black t-shirt with red Uzumaki swirl on the front. Tsuki was only just opening up and warming up the stoves and grills while a clearly energetic Naruto was already bursting through the door with a smile. Hey there old man, how about a couple bowls of miso before one join my team for training? Shaking his head with a chuckle, Tsuki motioned around the early morning emptiness of the shop. We've only barely opened Naruto, so no ramen yet, but I think I can put together some onigiri instead. How about it? Seeing the dejected look the boy put on, he eventually smiled and nodded anyway. Good, give me just a minute. Next to him, Ayame smiled at the younger blonde and leaned on the bar. Hey there Naruto. Liking the new look, trying something new. While he still had his usual orange pants, the black shirt and jacket combo seemed to even it out a tad. It was kinda cool, she thought. Ah, yeah, that's it. Trying a different look. He wasn't going to admit to burning his spare jacket. Any good news or rumors to share? Shaking her head as her dad came back with a plate of 3 carefully made rice balls, Ayame sighed, not really anything interesting. Though check with me later, you know I usually have something after lunchtime. Nodding and stuffing one ball in his mouth while leaving his pay and a tip on the counter, Naruto waved to them as he was already out of the door with the other 2 in his hands. Already at a light jog, he took a little more time to finish the last 2 rice creations while appreciating the sleepy morning atmosphere of the village. While the sun was low and not many people were out, it was easy to forget that people weren't that happy to have him here in the village, and some were more than happy to see him dead. Gripping his shirt over where the seal for the Kyuubi was, Naruto directed some anger at the beast. If it hadn't attacked when it did, maybe his life would have been more normal. Maybe he would have had parents. Shaking himself out of that thought, as that only lead to sadness and pain, Naruto instead resolved to make sure today was a great day. Of course, as he made it to the training ground, sun now slightly higher in the sky, the look Sakura was giving him had him feeling like his day was already doomed. Where have you been? How could she be so loud first thing in the morning? Kakashi-sensei isn't here yet, so technically not late. As a forever prankster and skirter of the rules, Naruto lived in the technicalities of life. Well, whatever. Just don't slow us down. Sasuke-kun can't watch out for you too. While she assumed Sasuke would protect her if anything happened, both boys knew that wasn't going to happen, for one reason or another. Hi, Sasuke good, Naruto bad, I got it Sakura. For some reason not feeling up to appeasing the loud Haruno so early this morning, Naruto started his normal routine and created a horde of clones. Maybe they could start on water walking today. Slightly put off by the change in the boy's attitude but not enough to actually say anything, Sakura sat back under a tree and went back to reading. While the boys had taken to training while waiting for their sensei, she was content to read a book in her spare time. Sasuke hadn't even batted an eye as Naruto showed up, nor flinched as the horde of clones got to work with equal parts tree climbing and working on exploding tags. Though one thing was different this morning. Naruto himself had unrolled a truly long blank scroll, and had himself plus a dozen others all covering every inch of it in seals. Shaking his head as the dobe was going to blow himself up one day, he returned to his own training on increasing the heat of his signature jutsu. And this was what their sensei walked in on. Sakura reading and not paying attention to the world around her. Sasuke exhausting himself practicing his family's main technique and Naruto finishing on something in a scroll and now working it into some type of bracelet. Clapping his hand, all eyes were suddenly on him. No mission today, so we'll do some team drills for a few hours and call it a day. Clones dispersing and almost fully energized, Naruto was ready and able. Alright, we're gonna get you today sensei. They would not, however, get even close to Kakashi. But tomorrow would be a new day, and who knew, miracles happen sometimes. Trying to be understanding but still ending up grumpy, a bored Naruto Uzumaki wandered the streets of Konoha. Today was like any other, training before Kakashi-sensei had shown up, work on some of his basic jutsu, and then head out for a D-rank mission before finishing and coming back for training. Except instead of training they were told explicitly to relax and take the rest of the day off, which meant very loud and clear that if their sensei caught any of them training Naruto, they'd be in for a world of trouble. With a sigh, Naruto understood that in his own way Kakashi wanted to make sure they weren't wearing themselves out. With a chuckle, Naruto figured Sakura didn't have to worry about that at all, but him and Sasuke might. Shaking it off and spotting a shop full of plants, he figured he could at least get a small bag of fertilizer for his house plants while he was out. It wouldn't do to neglect his housemates after all. Walking in and taking in the heady humid smell of plants and earth, he was overcome with peace for just a moment. Welcome to the Yamanaka nursery, what can I help you with? A bored voice answered from the counter. Face down in a fashion magazine, Ino Yamanaka in all her pretty blonde glory was manning the counter. Naruto hadn't seen the girl since the end of the academy but hoped her usual antics weren't about to come out to play. Hey Ino, where do you guys keep your fertilizer? Deciding to get what he came for and leave quick, he made his way to the counter. Looking up and spotting the loud troublemaker, Ino had to pause for a moment at the different look of the boy. The open black jacket and black tee wasn't a big change, but it was significant enough to give her some pause and made her give the boy a quick once-over. Ooh, you're not gonna use it for a prank, are you? Still wary even if he seemed to be taking things a little more serious. If the change of his wardrobe was an indication, she still had to make sure his usual antics didn't come back to her parents' shop. No, I have some house plants that need a little love, that's all. No pranking, honest. Hoping the girl believed him as he actually hadn't had time for pranking since the end of the academy. Well, except for that short time meeting Konohamaru and training him in the Wai no Jutsu. Giving the boy another good once-over, a small thought gracing her mind, she nodded and pointed off to her left. Along the back wall in the corner, next to the indoor aloe plants. Giving thanks and making his way between rows and rows of plants, Naruto was curious about what his former classmate had been up to. How's training going? Learn anything awesome from your sensei? Realizing she should have known she wouldn't be able to get back to her magazine, Ino snorted when she thought about her sensei. Heck no. Asuma sensei is too laid back for that. We're training sure and he works us through drills, and don't get me started on the D ranks, such a bore. And I've got the laziest teammates ever. Naruto tuned out her ranting about Shikamaru and Choji. Knowing the laid-back boys were probably getting nagged to death, Naruto found what he was looking for and snagged a small bag. Turning and glancing at the aloe plants, Naruto saw and read the small note attached to the base of the plant. Hey Ino, what's this about the aloe plant being a good chakra conductor? Pausing mid-rant about not being able to cloud watch for hours on end, Ino had to think about what the boy was asking her. Shaking her head, hold on. And moving around the counter, Ino walked around until she found Naruto kneeling next to a row of plants while delicately examining the thick leaves. Kneeling down next to him and turning the plant towards her, her dad's description came to her. Oh yeah. Apparently this particular variety of aloe vera has a sap that conducts chakra really well. Dad says that coating twine or thinner string with the stuff lets you use it in place of actual chakra thread, and a lot less chakra taxing too. Thinking about it, Naruto had another idea for it. If it could conduct chakra, think you could draw a seal with it? Well, I don't see why not. Not seeing where he was going with this, Ino just shrugged while the boy turned to look at her. Were his eyes always so deeply blue? Oh well. Coughing and taking the small bag of fertilizer and one of the medium-sized aloe plants, Naruto stood and grinned. I've got an idea then. Might not come to anything, but never hurts to try. Turning away from the pretty jade-eyed girl, Naruto started walking to the counter. Bouncing her way back to the counter, Ino held a grin on her face. Well, as long as it doesn't lead to pranks, I'm all for it. Ringing him up quickly and handing him a receipt, Ino nodded, thanks for the business and make sure to tell Forehead that just cause she's on his team doesn't mean I've given up yet. Love was war after all. Sure thing Ino-chan, and thanks again. Giving her a carefree smile and a wave, Naruto was out the door, missing the blushing girl give him a half wave in return before the glass door closed behind him. Deciding that maybe the other blonde could be cute if he wanted, but still not close to her Sasuke-kun, she returned back to her magazine for the day. Outside it was a carefree Naruto that was already on his way home. Sure he wasn't supposed to be training, but that didn't mean he couldn't experiment. Chakra conducting meant he could probably write seals with it, and that meant more ways to make exploding notes. But, because the sap was only slightly sticky, he needed a way to produce the seal fast in the same way every time. Maybe he could coat his hand with it. But then his hand would explode too, not a good idea. Thinking hard all the way home, he missed a lavender-eyed Hyuga eyeing him from around the corner. Having watched him leave the Yamanaka shop and observed the blushing Ino, there was a worrisome conclusion being made behind those eyes. Jumping as Naruto disappeared in a shunshin, she decided it would probably be best to think about things at home. Plant in front of him on his kitchen table along with several scrolls and now 3 other clones besides himself, Naruto thought about his problem long and hard. The sap itself is conductive, but so it's sealing ink. It's not like we need it to make tags. True, plus the sap is sorta runny, it wouldn't hold the form for long or anything. One of the clones had made a slight incision on a leaf, allowing the sap to bubble out slightly. But you can only make a seal tag so big, sure wish we could pack more of them into a smaller space. Sure they could seal multiple tags or make a paper bomb with exploding tags, but that was obvious and avoidable. Wait. Naruto himself snapped his fingers and pulled out one of his sealing training scrolls. Wasn't it in this scroll that they described a way of making super massive seal matrices super small by packing the matrix within another chakra conductive paper scroll? Something about needing the chakra to stabilize the matrix for use. Unrolling the scroll and sifting through it in order to find what he was looking for, it was another clone over his shoulder that pointed to the section they were looking for, written by one Kushina Yu. Well, that's what it says. Ooh, I get it. Maybe we can seal the very exploding matrix inside the sap itself. Yeah, and then we could put the sap anywhere. Naruto himself had a wide grin on his face. How about a mile-long seal packed into a kunai or even inside a small pellet? Yeah, this was definitely going to be fun. It'd take him a long time to work on to be the size he wanted, but this was for explosions, and explosions were always worth the extra work. Pulling out his tools and beginning to write, it was going to be a long night for him and a hard start early morning. Team 7 was waiting patiently as it was coming up on their turn to receive their mission for the day. It had been another few days, and while training was great, at least Naruto and Sasuke both were starting to get antsy. So when they came forward and Iruka started naming off more D-rank missions, Naruto finally had enough and said as much. Come on Gigi. We've been training our butts off and working these chores like no one's business. Let's have a real mission for once. Missing the nod from an agreeing Sasuke and flatly ignoring a protesting Iruka, Naruto was ready to match wills with the aging Hokage. So your team feels like they're ready for a real mission. Watching the subtle nod from Kakashi, Sarutobi sighed before pulling a scroll from the pile. Well, you're in luck today, we just so happen to have an escort mission available. C rank, good to get your feet wet. Handing the scroll over to Kakashi, the Hokage cleared his throat. Tazuna-san, your team is here. From a door off to the side, an elderly man sporting a gray head of hair and matching beard stumbled into the room. From the smell of alcohol, no one had to guess what was in the jug he had with him. Looking through his GL at the team, Tazuna scoffed. What's this? I ask for a team and they give me brats. I'm the great Tazuna, the bridge builder. Don't I deserve some actual ninja? Chuckling and waving them all away, the Hokage smiled. I'm sure for just an escort mission these genin will be more than enough. You'll find they're full of surprises. Watching as Kakashi led a grumbling Tazuna away, Sarutobi's eyes hardened only slightly. Outside it was an eye-smiling Kakashi who turned to his team, "Go ahead and head home, pack for an extended mission and meet me at the main gate in 30. And with that, Kakashi wandered away with their client while Naruto and the others quickly split up to pack and prepare. For Naruto this involved a quick body flicker back to his home, grabbing his pack and sealing scrolls before sealing everything into a medium-sized storage scroll. Idly twirling it in his hand before shoving it into an inner pocket on his new jacket, he took some extra time to make a quick sandwich to scarf down. Having some time to think, he was still lamenting he hadn't had time to fix his old jacket yet, but he figured after this mission he'd finally get a new one. Orange was his favorite color after all. Taking one last look around his apartment, only pausing here and there to water his plants and say goodbye, Naruto was out the door in a flurry of leaves with only a few moments to spare. Appearing not far from the gate with a bright grin, Kakashi and the other members of Team 7 were waiting for him. A screech dying on her lips, Sakura pointed at Naruto. "Since when do you know the Shunshin?" He hadn't been using it at the training ground, and it wasn't like she paid attention to him after team missions either. Scrubbing his head with an odd look, again a little bummed that his crush barely paid any attention to him at all, Naruto shrugged, "For a while. It's AD rank and the lady at the library was super cool about helping me find the training scroll for it. Granted it might have been so she could get him in and out of the library faster, he couldn't keep quiet for long after all." Trying hard not to laugh at the mental image of Naruto in a library and figuring he was bluffing, Sakura scoffed and turned away. "You know, I'm sure Kakashi-sensei would be pretty bummed if you were getting training from another sensei. You shouldn't lie. There was no way the dead last knew something even her Sasuke-kun didn't after all. And since he didn't know Shunshin yet, she knew their teacher hadn't thought to train them with it yet." Feelings taking a mental slap and then some, Naruto stuffed his hands in his pockets and formed up behind everyone. Kakashi leading the charge, Naruto was only slightly looking forward to the mission at this point. On the other side of their client Sasuke was looking at him with a calculating look, but didn't say much. But beyond their slow start, Team 7 started their journey to Wave, enjoying the bright blue sky and peaceful trees outside of the village proper. Naruto had never been outside of the village before outside of a few times when he was younger and had been run off from the orphanage. The road currently was nice and peaceful so far at least. Sakura wasn't paying all that much attention, mentally planning how she could somehow share a tent with her love interest, while said love interest was trying to pay attention and scan the road as per their mission while being bored out of his mind. After about 15 minutes of walking and cresting a hill, Naruto took note of a puddle in the middle of the road. Looking up again at the clear sky and warm sun just to make sure, he again puzzled out what was niggling at the back of his mind. Kakashi-sensei didn't seem bothered, then again he never seemed bothered, nose deep in his book. Sakura was a lost cause and Sasuke seemed to be doing his best to ignore the girl. And then it clicked, it hasn't rained in weeks. Subtly making a clone and switching with it at the tree line just in case, Naruto figured the others had already seen through the illusion and made similar plans. In the darkness of the tree line as their group and his doppelganger finally passed the puddle, Naruto was ready to admit that maybe his prank senses were letting him down. At least until two men poofed out from the puddle, wrapping Kakashi-sensei in chains and tearing him apart. Knowing that if he could see through that lame illusion then his sensei for sure was fine, Naruto made ready to jump back into the fray if his clone failed its task. "Look at that Gozu," their sensei was quick to put down. The first ninja bearing a horned Hittite gloated. "That just leaves the brats to clean up Mizu." Lunging forward, the second horned ninja wasn't fully prepared for the previously frozen blonde to charge forward, attempting to tackle and hold Gozu around the waist. "Ha ha ha ha, give it up kid, you're 100 years too early to take me down." Seals around his wrist glowing unnoticed to Gozu, the Naruto clone grinned, "It's been a blast. Katsu." And then there was fire and light. What Naruto never thought to take into account as he made several hundred feet worth of explosive seals along a scroll and wove it all into a bracelet, was that each tag could and would build upon each other as they were chained together. So while a normal exploding tag alone may take off a limb or partially singe a more experienced and prepared ninja, this more exponentially powerful seal array would only feed back in on itself by a much stronger value. End result. A 10-foot wide and 3-foot crater was instantly dug into the road where Gozu used to exist. Maizu was also almost immediately tossed like a rag doll into the trees, spine snapping where he was tossed first into and then through the first tree that tried to arrest his momentum. When he finally did come to a stop several dozen meters away, he would mercifully already be unconscious. Not that he had any chance of returning to ninja duties ever again between the burns, spinal damage and multiple broken bones. Back on the street, the shock wave had been enough to toss Sakura and Sasuke both several feet, while Kakashi had thought it prudent to shunshin away with Tazuna once he saw Naruto enacting his own plan. Kakashi would have to lecture Naruto on restraint in the future, but privately he was proud that the kid was taking this seriously. Though, as he walked back onto the road with their very shaken client, he still had to chuckle at the overkill. Leaping from the trees with a grin on his face, Naruto made several clones to go find the other enemy ninja. Holding a thumbs up to Kakashi, he was completely proud of himself. Alright, score 1 for Team 7. Cackling like a madman, he never saw the punch that tossed him into the ground. What the hell was that, Dobi? You could have killed all of us with that. Of all the stupid, ignorant, useless, Sakura was building herself up for a long rant before Kakashi stepped in with a hand on her shoulder. Mama, first before you berate him, Naruto-kun, please explain your reasoning. To Kakashi, this was exactly the type of teachable moment they needed. All of them. He could see the look of astonishment on Sasuke's face, no longer able to hide behind a veil of being above it all. He hadn't reacted nearly as fast to the threat after all. Picking himself up with an angry grumble, the now sour Uzumaki looked directly at his sensei. Well, first I figured that the puddle was a fake, cause you know, it hasn't rained in weeks and any puddle should be gone in this heat. And I figured if I could figure that out, with everyone else being smarter than me, then it should have been really obvious to you all. So I figured with my clones I could take out the threat while my teammates could protect the client. Nodding and secretly still proud of the Uzumaki, Kakashi still had to lecture the boy, and advise all of them. So do you know where you messed up? Ooh, I didn't expect the explosion to be that big. Shaking his head, Kakashi motioned to his two teammates. Did you consider at all that your teammates actually didn't notice the puddle was a trap? Seeing the boy shake his head, Kakashi continued, not only did you not communicate with your team about the possible threat, yes, your tactic could have ended with injury to your team and the client. Thankfully that's what I'm here for, to cover for your inexperience, and to help you learn from these mistakes. Seeing the boy lose his energy at the admonishment, Kakashi smiled internally. Your decision making was okay up to a point, but communication is key to teamwork. Keep that in mind from now on. You can't assume everyone is smarter than you and will make the same decisions as you. With that, Kakashi turned to their now sweating client, and you, Tazuna, we have much to talk about. Walking a bit away from the others, Kakashi was going to find out why the demon brothers were after a bridge builder from a small country. Dobi, how'd you pull off that explosion in the first place? Exploding tags Tem, give it a try sometime. Now really upset but determined to make up for it eventually, Naruto wasn't in the mood for Sasuke's, I'm better than you, attitude. You don't have to be rude to Sasuke-kun just cause you got chewed out, baka. Throwing his hands up in the air as his clones came back and dumped the paralyzed body of the other demon brother at his feet. Bound and gagged, the clones all saluted before dispersing themselves. There the three genin of Team 7 sat and waited, Sakura trying to stroke Sasuke's ego by saying how he would have taken both enemy ninja down without nearly killing them in the process, while Sasuke himself was looking at Naruto in a new light. Sure, he had thought his training wouldn't bridge the gap between them at all, but now he could see that at least within him was a competent teammate. Not like a certain fangirl. Maybe he should start working on those chakra exercises as well. Walking back to the group with a pale Tazuna, Kakashi was all smiles. Okay troops, here's the deal. Tazuna apparently has lied about why he needed his escort and now we have a decision to make. Wave is currently under the heel of a greedy shipping magnate by the name of Gato, and Tazuna is building a bridge in order to get past his shipping embargo. In order to stop the bridge being built, Gato has apparently hired mercenaries to kill Tazuna and prevent the bridge from being built. If these two, the Demon Brothers, are involved, that means this is at least an B-rank mission. So we can turn back right now, or we can continue on at our own risk. Not even hesitating, Naruto threw up a fist, and missed the chance to kick some major ninja butt and save people. No way, I'm in. Nodding, Sasuke agreed with Naruto. We're ninja of the leaf, we don't get to abandon a mission once it's been given. Sakura, being of a different mind but not wanting to go against Sasuke, nodded. Yeah, there's no way any ninja are a match for us. Nodding with some pride, Kakashi turned to Tazuna. Welp, you heard them, we'll continue on with this mission. However, I will be making a report, and when this is over, there will be an adjustment. If the bridge is completed, we should be able to pay it no problem. While happy the ninja wouldn't abandon him, he wasn't sure how they would repay them when all this was over. Kakashi took note finally of Mizu's bound and gagged form, grinning at the young Uzumaki. Good job on the capture, Naruto. Give me a moment to prepare a scroll and send up a flare. They were still close to the village, and Anbu's squad should be able to perform a quick pickup. Which, after penning a quick scroll to describe Naruto's defeat and capture of the enemy ninja along with the situation they found themselves in and their intention to continue, Kakashi sent up an emergency flare that he pulled from a pocket in his Jonin vest. Once that was done, he performed some quick hand seals and thrust his hand at the ground. Kuchio's no jutsu. From a poof of smoke, a small dog was sitting and waiting patiently for the masked ninja to give it orders. Tucking the scroll into the pug's collar, Kakashi nodded. Anbu should be here soon. Watch over this guy and give them the scroll when they get here. Moving the ninja off into the bushes and out of sight, Kakashi's summon nodded. Gotcha. Wait and play babysitter. Chuckling and turning to his team, Kakashi motioned for them to continue. Finally, welp, let's get going, team. We have a lot of ground to cover. Hey, Kakashi-sensei, can you teach us that? Naruto was as always quick to try to learn something new. Maybe one day, but you have a long way to go before trying to summon anything. Sure, Naruto had the chakra for it, but considering his parentage, he wasn't going to step on those toes. Just in case someone else had a plan already. Ah, fine. Also, Naruto, from here on, can you create clones to follow us in the tree line? I'd rather have some warning just in case. Give the boy some practice in using the clones in different ways. Which, considering the light shining in his eyes, Naruto hadn't even thought to use the clones as a kind of early warning system before. Sure thing, sensei. Making his seal and disappearing in a fog bank worth of smoke, 3 dozen clones sat in the road. Without a word, all but one leapt into the trees. Looking at the Naruto who was with them, Sasuke voiced a question. How will we know you're the real one? Couldn't someone kill a clone and transform into you? Nodding, Naruto figured that was true. Well, sure, but you're my team, so ask me an easy question only I would know, like what's the best flavor of ramen? Naruto, you like all ramen. It was Sakura who spoke up, Sasuke not getting it right away. Exactly, all ramen is my favorite. Seeing the kids begin to actually make plans and feed off one another, Kakashi decided not to chime in just yet. It had taken a little bit, but it seemed they were starting to take things a little more seriously as a team. Even Sakura was starting to use her head a bit, even if it took some coaxing. The rest of the afternoon was the team traversing the countryside, making plans and keeping an eye on the road. Though no bandits or enemy ninja made any appearances, they all were on alert as they came closer to the land of Wave. From the water border where they met a waiting boatman who nervously took them from the mainland across the fog-covered water. They finally made landfall in wave itself as evening approached with no issues. Looking pointedly at Naruto, who gave a thumbs up, Kakashi motioned the team forward, moving quietly through the foggy forest. And it was moving through the mists that a nervous Sakura jumped at a rustling bush, launching a kunai into the cover. Everyone looking at her and waiting, she wordlessly went to investigate, coming back with a snow-white bunny. Laughing nervously, Sakura tried to console the terrified animal, "Guess I'm a little jumpy." Sasuke, however, was looking at it more closely. "Wait, it's still summer, no rabbit should be snow-white like that." Hearing something large cutting through the air, Kakashi was already pulling Tazuna to the ground, everyone down. Hitting the dirt, each of the genin had different thoughts as a sword just as tall as probably Kakashi himself flew overhead, burying itself into the trunk of a tree behind them. Silently landing on its edge, a foreign ninja stood watching them all. Hey, no wonder the demon brothers failed, up against the famous copycat ninja himself. Bandages over his mouth and bare-chested, the mist ninja was glaring down at the Konoha ninja. Though it looks like the mighty have fallen quite far, they got you babysitting brats now. Defend the client and don't get involved, this opponent is way out of your league. Only moving once the three genin encircled Tazuna, Kakashi turned his full attention to his enemy, demon of the bloody mists, Zabuza. What rock did you crawl out from? Making a single sign, a thick mist began to roll in, you'll regret not retreating when you could. The mist now so thick their visibility was barely a foot, and Zabuza's voice echoed from all directions, "I'll introduce you to my silent killing technique. Will it be your hearts, neck, spine, liver? So many instant kill strikes, so little time." All three younger members of Team 7 were doing their best to watch and protect their charge, while Kakashi had his senses on high alert for when Zabuza would make his appearance. Shifting his head back and forth, a subtle movement in the mist had him turning and lunging with all the speed he had. Somehow appearing among them, the mist cleared enough that the genin could see Zabuza winding up for a killing strike. Two bad kitties. Time to die. Being kicked in the side and tossed away onto the nearby lake's surface before he could strike, he was set upon by Kakashi. Laughing and defending himself, the lack of concentration allowing the mist to clear, Zabuza taunted Kakashi, "How does it feel, to once be so feared to have to be a glorified babysitting now? You'd be surprised, one day those kids are gonna surpass both of us." Dodging the oversized blade and connecting with a palm strike, he frowned as the sensation was all wrong. "Wait, water. It's heavy." Not being fast enough to pull off a substitution, Kakashi was engulfed in Zabuza's water prison. Willing to gloat now that his biggest threat was captured, Zabuza laughed, "Ha ha ha ha, how weak you've become. This is the fabled S-class ninja, maybe Konoha needs to rethink its rankings." Watching their sensei come under fire, Naruto frowned before coming up with a rough but quick plan. "Sasuke, we're gonna save sensei." Pulling out a Fuma shuriken in a poof of smoke, Naruto relayed his quick plan. "Alright Dobi, let's see if this works then. Sakura, watch Tazuna. What are you doing? Run, you can't fight him." Kakashi tried to impress on the kids to take the client and run. He might be able to fight his way out without the kids to worry about. Sasuke and Naruto are run forward together while Zabuza makes a dozen water clones. It is Naruto who counters with his own, "There's no way we'd leave you behind sensei." Letting Naruto take the clones, Sasuke leapt and inhaled deeply. Preparing his chakra before exhaling his signature technique, the fireball was tinged on white at the edges. Just behind it traveled a hastily thrown Fuma shuriken. It took but a moment for the Uchiha Saiyan to land on the lake's edge, watching the plan unfold. Zabuza was forced to build a hasty barrier in the form of a water wall in order to block the Gokaku no Jutsu. The steam nearly hid the shuriken just behind it. Bringing his faithful sword around to block it, Zabuza was not prepared for the blonde that transformed in place of the foldable weapon. Reaching forward and grabbing Zabuza's arm, the single exploding seal on the back of the clone's hand began to glow. Teach you to underestimate us. Katsu. Having to choose between holding Kakashi and losing an arm or retreating, Zabuza decided retreat was the better option. Dropping the water prison and performing a hasty substitution, Zabuza was more than a little irritated as the clone was still standing there giving him the finger. Teach you to underestimate the greatest prankster alive. Ruffling the brave blonde who was shakily standing on the lake's water, he walked forward. It's all me from here on, watch your sensei work for a bit. Moving his headband to expose his Sharingan eye, Kakashi was now deathly serious. You're gonna fight me and protect those kids, don't make me laugh. Performing hand seals in quick succession, Zabuza called out his technique, missing Kakashi copying him, Suiryuden no Jutsu. Twin techniques rose from the lake, intertwining before canceling each other. Ha! Think you're clever, think your cheap tricks can keep up with an original, do you? Kakashi, however, wasn't a Junin for nothing. For every technique he had ever copied, he had made sure to master each and every one. Knowing Zabuza was going to run another water dragon, it was child's play to start sealing before him and finish the technique a few seconds ahead of him. Perhaps, you should practice a bit more. Launching his own attack, it was Zabuza who was launched across the lake's surface and blasted into the trunk of a tree. Recovering his donated eye and exhausted, Kakashi moved to finish off his opponent. This was preempted, however, by several Senbon sinking into Zabuza's neck. Appearing like a whisper, a masked Kiri ninja appeared next to the demon of the bloody mists. Bowing politely to the team of Konoha Nin, the androgynous figure stood up. Thank you for the assist, I've been hunting this fugitive for some time. It will be good to return him to our village. Sighing and standing back, knowing he couldn't fight anymore, Kakashi nodded. It would have been nice to have an assist earlier, Hunter-san. With a shrug, the apparent hunter kneeled and grabbed hold of Zabuza's body, performing a body flicker and disappearing with the corpse. Once they were gone, it was a tired Kakashi who turned back to the team. Well, gotta say, that was exciting. That was as far as he got before he fell face first into the water. Ah, Kakashi-sensei. Naruto ran to pick their sensei up to prevent him from drowning. Several clones coming from their hiding places in order to help. A shaking Tazuna and Sakura came forward, the older man wiping his brow. You lot really are the real deal. Come on, my home isn't far, we can rest up for the night. Sakura was quick to check over their sensei, his large body dwarfing Naruto almost completely. Looking him over and checking his eye by opening a closed eyelid, and checking his breathing, Sakura eventually sighed and nodded. Looks like chakra exhaustion. Sensei should be fine after some rest. Nodding, Naruto motioned to Sasuke, who moved to the head of the group. Well, lead the way to Tazuna-san, we'll get you home. While Sasuke wouldn't admit to taking orders from Naruto, ever, at the moment even he could admit that the blonde was trustworthy. And maybe they were wrong about him being the dead last after all. So with some newfound respect in his heart, Sasuke walked next to Tazuna as he led them to his home and a happy daughter who was more than happy to take them all in after seeing her father safe and sound at home. The night came to an end with Team 7 all in one piece, though each with different thoughts on their minds about just what this mission had come out to so far. With a start, Kakashi awoke to a dark but comfortable room. Mind racing, it took a few moments before he could piece together what had led to him being laid up in a bed in an unknown place. The mission, the battle, winning, and overusing his cursed eye. It all came back to him in a flash and he groaned in half embarrassment. To think he'd exhaust himself too quickly in front on his students. Well, they lived to tell the tale, so he could live with it for now. Though when they got back to the village he was sure to hear it from Asuma and the others when he filed his report. With a tired groan the exhausted ninja rolled and rose to his feet, shuffling out the door and down the stairs where he could hear people. Downstairs it was 3 bored genin who were waiting on the condition of their sensei to improve. While Naruto had wanted to train like normal, he figured that since they were in unfamiliar territory that he should probably wait for some orders for once. Sakura was helping Tezuna's daughter Tsunami prepare lunch with what supplies they had. Sasuke was waiting just as Naruto was, not entirely sure how they should proceed. Tezuna had assured them that he wouldn't need protection within the village of Wave, but they were all nervous regardless. However, as they heard a thumping from the stairs, all three students heaved a relieved sigh as their sensei made an appearance, though slow. Well, it's good to see everyone up and so chipper. Kakashi was in good spirits at least, seeing his students all happy and in one piece. Come with me, we have much to talk about. Thanking Tsunami for the help while he was out, he ushered his students out of the house and into a clearing not far away. Arranging all three of them before him, Kakashi got serious for a moment. I think it's time to get a little more hands-on with your training. Seeing each of the kids focus on him a bit more, he nodded with some pride. I'm proud of you, Naruto, for taking initiative to learn more of the basics and continuing chakra control and movement techniques. I would have thought our resident bookworm would have done the same. Looking pointedly at Sakura, she raised her hand. But Kakashi-sensei, why would we need to continue exercises after the academy? Motioning to Naruto, Kakashi hoped that maybe having an example would put things in perspective. Because first, you should always be working towards improvement. And second, many of these basic exercises have practical uses. Like tree walking and water walking. Notice yesterday how Zabuza and myself continued our fight on the lake, or how Naruto was able to reposition using the trees. You never know what skill will have the most use and when, so it's best to learn all that you can, and practice. Plus, it'll do wonders for building up your chakra reserves. Much like a muscle, using it will build it up. Turning and motioning to the line of trees behind him, he looked mainly at Sakura and Sasuke. Your goal for the next week is to be able to reach the top of the tree with just your chakra. And not just once, you must continue the training until you can do so hours at a time without getting tired. This will increase both your control and your capacity. Turning to Naruto, Kakashi nodded. While I understand you have tree walking down, I noticed you're still working on the water walking skill. Yeah, I can hold it for short times, but varying my chakra still takes some concentration. Nodding and expecting the answer, Kakashi motioned back towards the village. Your job this week is to watch over the bridge building, practice the exercise while at the bridge, and make safe use of your clones in the meantime. Got it. Hi. Kakashi waved him off as he himself turned and trudged back to the house. Then I'm going back to bed. Chakra exhaustion is no joke, and I need to be in the best form I can be before the week is over. Not seeing the need for urgency, Sakura again raised her hand. Why is that, sensei? Kakashi looked back to them with a gleam in his eye, because that hunter nin was a fake. Normally hunter cut off the head and burn the body. Considering also the weapon used to eliminate Zabuza, I have a suspicion that the hunter was actually Zabuza's accomplice. But waving them off, Kakashi turned away. But all we can do is prepare as much as possible and be ready for when they return. So saying, their sensei walked back towards their client's home. Standing there for a moment, Naruto himself turned to rush off to his assigned task. But it was Sasuke's voice that stopped him. Dobi no. Naruto. Any advice about the tree walking technique? While Sasuke would normally never think to ask the dead last for anything. The last few days had shown that out here, Naruto was anything but. Naruto had the skill and worked 3 times as hard as anyone else for it, and Sasuke could respect that. Scratching his neck, Naruto nodded. Well, usually you see me getting a running start at trees, right? You have to put the right amount of chakra at your feet to stick as well. Too much and you blow off, and too little and you don't stick. But I noticed after a while that if you instead sit at the base of a tree and try sticking yourself first, it takes a little longer, but you get a better feel for how much or little chakra you need. Shrugging, Naruto did have the benefit of being able to spam clones for something like this. Nodding and turning away from his teammate, Sasuke got ready to practice. Alright, just you wait, I'm gonna catch up to you and we'll see who stays ahead by the end of the week. Maybe having a rival wasn't so bad. In your dreams, Sasuke. Naruto had a grin on his face though as he set off through the trees, not having a problem navigating towards the large bridge in the distance. Doing his duty as instructed, Naruto made good time to the bridge while traveling over the trees and rooftops, before dropping to the ground and landing not far away from the construction team. Raising a hand to wave at a surprised Tazuna, Naruto was still all grins. Kakashi-sensei finally woke up, gave me orders to come watch over you while getting some training done. Hey. Waving the kid off but nodding as he was just doing his job, Tazuna turned back to his crew who were waiting for some orders themselves. Knock yourself out, kid, just try not to get underfoot, alright? Leaping towards the side of the bridge, Naruto crossed his fingers. No sweat, Tazuna-san. Kage Bushin no Jutsu. Pumping more chakra than he probably should have, a few hundred clones all fell to the water below to begin training. Satisfied that they were doing just that, Naruto walked up the support pillar of this section of bridge before sitting and keeping an eye out, completely out of the way like he was asked. Eyes wide and staring at the slip of a kid who apparently really was a ninja. Of the men whispered to Tazuna, "You really got some ninja to come protect us to finish the bridge." Nodding, Tazuna slapped the blueprint on their hastily put together work table. "Sure did, and these kids did a super job protecting me and getting me here safe. I trust them, and you should too. Now, here's the schedule for today." Tazuna wasn't worried about the black and orange clad boy who was watching over him, completely confident the kid would protect him just like he said he would, so he would do his own job, and complete this bridge. Day to night, night to day, 4 grueling days of training and watching their client went by in almost a blink. And through it all, Team 7 kept their morale up while their teacher regained his strength. This night, however, found everyone at the dinner table, Naruto contributing by surprise by showing up with an armload of fish. Can't be a freeloader, and clones are useful for more than just blowing stuff up. Tsunami was more than happy to take the extra provisions and cook a much larger meal. Sitting and enjoying some rice, it was Kakashi who warned his high-spirited students, "Remember, tomorrow is most likely crunch day, so everyone is to be at the bridge, which means rest and recovery tonight." While everyone on the team knew who that was aimed at, Naruto had the decency to blush and agree. It was, however, a ill-tempered Inari, Tsunami's son, that finally had enough. "How can you be so happy? You can't win against Gato. He'll crush you just like he's crushed everyone else. You're going to die, don't you care?" Pulling up his mask after taking a bite, ignoring the hearts in Tsunami's eyes, Kakashi sighed, "I don't think you'll need to worry about us. I've dealt with worse than Gato in my time." Frowning as once between the three of them, none of the genin had seen Kakashi's face this time. It was Naruto that focused on the here and now. Yeah, we're super awesome. There's no way we're going to let some wannabe dictator stop us." Full of confidence, Naruto fully believed their team would pull through. They had Kakashi after all too. Standing up and pointing, the frustrated kid was now fully angry. "I don't wanna hear it from some coddled ninja. I bet you've never suffered once in your life at all, surrounded by your friends and family, never having to worry about if you'll have to eat that night or if some bandits are going to come through your home at night. This is the real world, why don't you try living in it?" While Sakura and Sasuke didn't know much about Naruto's past, they both knew that he had been treated differently than the rest of them. So even they were a little shocked at just how quickly the happy look drained from Naruto's face, replaced with a cold glacial look that was better suited on an angry Hyuga. "Maybe, you should consider not everyone who's happy actually had a happy life. I know what it's like to suffer, but at least you still have some of your parents, people who love you. That's what's most important, isn't it?" Voice and tone cold, Naruto stood and bowed to Tsunami. "Thank you, Tsunami-san, I'll be leaving for a while." No one bothered to stop the blonde as he made for the door, opening and closing it in a fluid motion. Sakura made to go after him, but Kakashi settled her down with a wave of his hand. "Let him go blow off some steam. He'll be alright. He's just mad that I'm right, So childish. Inari chose to speak up again, but the look sent his way by the Team 7 sensei froze him in place. It's not fully my story to tell, but Naruto was an orphan since birth. No parents, no family, no friends. It's only recently that he's started forming any bonds with people. Do you think you could be as happy and carefree as he is, growing up in such a way? Kakashi, of course, couldn't get into the why his life had been that way, or the worse things that had happened to him. That was up to his wayward student to bring up himself. Turning to the door with a contemplative look, Sakura reevaluated her thoughts about her teammate, while Sasuke turned back to his meal. Nothing he could do about it now after all. Naruto, however, was venting his frustration in the best way he knew how, creating dozens of clones and pounding away at himself, literally. Long into the night he trained and practiced before eventually the day's normal training caught up with him and he passed out in a heap below a scarred tree. The full moon watched over him as eventually the mists concealed him from the rest of the world for the night. It was in his dreams, however, that things began to go all kinds of weird. Normally Naruto would enjoy a wonderful dream involving never-ending ramen, or maybe after a particularly stressful day, something that involved ramen and particular classmates from his time at the academy. Tonight, however, no perversions, but instead he found himself in a dank sewer, ankle deep in water. Well, this doesn't look good, maybe I ate some bad fish. Already feeling guilty about insulting Tsunami's amazing cooking, Naruto began to wander aimlessly through those wet halls. It all felt just slightly off, like a place he didn't know but should. But he walked still, for maybe hours or days, before he found himself in a cavernous space where as far as he could see were bars wider than he was tall. Walking up to one, there was a simple piece of paper with the word, seal, written on it, but no more. Just where is this? Come and find out. A giant red claw reached out, trying to impale him. The bars closed ranks automatically and kept him from being torn to shreds, but Naruto was already looking up, past the claws, past the arm and into the baleful red eyes of a beast of legend that he never thought he would see alive. You're the Kyuubi, aren't you? Growling low and moving away from the bars, they'd opened up as his malice towards his container settled into something barely above annoyance. So the little monkey can connect the dots. Truly an accomplishment for such a simpleton. The ageless demon was not impressed. So many of his previous hosts were much more fearsome than this whelp. Yeah, well, I'm not the one who's locked away in this little monkey now, am I? Big bad Kyuubi, locked away in a kid. Naruto was scared, he could admit that, but he would rather spit in the eye of the kami before admitting it to this. So this kid had fire, just like his mother, muahahaha. So he has teeth after all. Tell me, whelp, you've started taking life serious, but is it enough yet? Think you can take me? He'd love a challenge right now, and tricking this kid into fighting him for control so early would be a boon. Sure, they could speak already because the boy's control over his own chakra had improved a great deal, but it was nowhere near enough to truly deal with his yet. Yeah, right. I'd love to say yeah, but I've got a long way to go. Firming up his resolve, Naruto held out a fist to the beast. Just you wait though, one day I'm going to be the strongest, and when I am, me and you are going to have it out. You got it. Challenging the strongest of the tailed beasts, Naruto was, if nothing else, ambitious. You amuse me. I'll take that challenge, and I'll even help you. You are the container to the strongest Biju in existence. I deserve no less than to have the strongest container. So I will heal you when needed, and occasionally gift you my chakra. But you better continue your training and build your own strength, lest my power consume you. Smiling wide with rows of sharp fangs flashing, the bloodthirst in the Kyuubi's eyes was very apparent. Not looking this gift horse in the mouth, Naruto nodded, oh, I'll get strong all right, and you'll see, I'm going to prove everyone wrong about me, even you. No longer caring and ready to be done with the child, the Kyuubi turned away. Time will tell, whelp, but perhaps you should consider waking before your throat is slit. Woo. And Naruto's mind fell. Morning, however, found a new occupant in the clearing, a black-haired beauty who stumbled upon the blonde bomber much by accident. Recognizing him, however, they waffled between ending the threat or sparing him, before deciding it wasn't his decision to make. So, taking pity on the boy currently soaked in the morning dew, they shook his shoulder. "Excuse me, but you probably shouldn't be sleeping outside here." "Huh, was that?" Through the haze of his dream, Naruto blearily opened his eyes and looked upon the person above him. Hello there. What's her name?" Curious about his watcher, Naruto sat up. "My name is Haku. This is certainly an odd place to sleep. Why are you out here all alone?" "Oh, I was training. Got a little carried away, I guess. I'm a ninja here to protect the bridge builder." Finally rolling to his feet and stretching, his back stiff from sleeping on the cold ground overnight. "What are you doing out here?" Pointing at a basket full of herbs, Haku smiled. "Collecting herbs for a friend of mine. Say, would you like to help me?" Deciding he didn't have anything better to do at the moment, and by the looks of the sun he had some time before he needed to get back, Naruto nodded. "Sure thing, I'll help out. Show me what we're looking for." Looking to take his time, Naruto didn't spam clones for this task. So he set to work, listening to Haku intently as the apparent young woman showed him what herbs were useful and which ones were no more than weeds. It wasn't long before the basket was full and Haku was standing ready to go. "Thank you, Naruto-san, for the help. No sweat, miss, all in a day's work for a ninja." Seeming to think something over for a moment, Haku asked a question. "When I asked you why you were out here, you told me you were training. Can I ask, why are you training so hard?" Keeping their motivation to themselves, they were genuinely curious. "Well, to get strong, of course. I wanna be Hokage one day and I have to be the strongest to do that." His answer was quick and truthful. His goal and dream always on his mind. "Is that strength just for you, however? Or for others?" Pausing at Naruto's slightly confused looks, Haku clarified, "To me, real strength comes from defending those precious to you. Strength for yourself is too selfish and can't take you further than protecting those you love. Think of your Hokage. Don't you think he loves all of your village? Does he toil that much harder to make sure his loved ones don't have to suffer?" Turning away slightly ready to leave, Haku nodded to the thinking boy. "Something to think about." Yeah, it is. Sure, the Kyuubi wanted Naruto to be the strongest of the strong, and Naruto wanted to be strong in order to become Hokage. But was being strong all there was? Or was having someone precious to protect part of the equation too? Unbidden, the faces of Iruka and the Ichirakus entered his mind. Looking up at the departing beauty, Naruto grinned. "Thanks for the advice, Haku-chan, you're a nice lady." Able to enjoy a bit of teasing, Haku looked back at the boy with a smile. "No worries." Pausing for effect, and effeminate boy tilted his head. "And I'm a boy, Naruto-kun." Continuing on his way without another word, Haku left a flabbergasted but smiling Naruto, who, after shaking himself, realized he was now running late. Shit, time to get back. And off like a shot, Naruto was up and into the trees, making a beeline for Tazuna's home. Making great time, or so he thought. Naruto was unprepared for the scream that reached his ears. Making a squad of a dozen clones, they all vanished in a swirl of leaves. Inari was standing in the hallway of his home, trembling but starting down to worn down samurai holding his mom hostage. Scared and worried everything was going to fall apart again, tears were already tracking down Inari's face as one of the thugs held his mom against him. Let my mom go." The unburdened thug came forward, grin on his face. "Normally I'd complain Gato doesn't pay us enough, but with this little treat I think I'll be satisfied with today." Pulling his sword as he turned away from his cohort, he made a show of pointing the rusted weapon at the barely standing boy. "Don't you worry, kid, your mom will be seeing you soon, after we're done with her. That'd be a long while from now, but kid didn't need to worry about that. Over my dead body." Before he could turn completely to look at who called out, a sandal-clad foot connected with the back of his head. Disoriented and dizzy, He wasn't prepared for two sets of arms to toss him back out the front door and into the yard, where he was immediately pummeled by a dozen waiting clones. Inari was suddenly in his mother's embrace, both crying and assuring themselves that the other was okay and unhurt. Naruto watched them with an odd look on his face, before turning away and knowing it was time to get to the bridge. Seeing their last-minute savior go, Inari wrestled free and reached out to the boy. Wait. Don't go, Gato will win. He'll always win. Just run, let's run. Scoffing, Naruto thumbed his headband with a wide grin on his face, already mind set in battle mode. I'm a proud ninja of the leaf. We don't run with things get tough. You've gotta stand up for yourself eventually, Inari, or deadbeats like Gato will keep walking all over you. I'll leave some clones, you'll both be safe here. With that, Naruto was out and into the trees, leaving behind several clones who were busy tying up the thugs. Hey Tsunami-san, wanna take a turn kicking the shit out of these guys? Hey idiot, language, she's a lady. Who you calling an idiot, idiot? And she doesn't mind, do you Tsunami-san? You, I'm calling you an idiot, you idiot. Watching clones of the boy literally argue with themselves, it was Inari who was already running out of the door quickly, a plan slowly forming in the boy's mind. I'm going to get help, Mom, I'll be back as soon as I can. And he too was gone. The absurdity of everything that had happened within the last 15 minutes finally catching up to her, Tsunami decided it might be best to just roll with it. Looking upon the waking samurai, Tsunami came outside hoisting a cast iron pan. Hold them still, boys, I have a lot of frustration to let out. After several identical cheers, only pained screaming was heard. Naruto had already created another few dozen clones who had spread out as they neared the bridge, and the sight he came upon was not a welcome one. Like Kakashi-sensei had thought, Zabuza was up and in fighting form again, holding off the Leaf Junin with his massive cleaver. However, while Sakura was protecting the bridge builder, it was Sasuke who was fighting against the masked fake hunter Nin within a dome of strange-looking mirrors. Naruto made a last leap before sliding to watch Sasuke's back, a kunai in each hand blocking or diverting Senbon. Hey, thought you'd be done by now, Sasuke, what's taking you so long with this loser? Panting but watching the hunter's movements, Sasuke wanting to be irritated with the blonde but just couldn't. For once happy to see the knucklehead. Oh, you know, wanted to give you a chance to see how much more awesome I am than you. Spinning to deflect a needle from his left, Naruto was already moving to his right to defend his blind spot. Yeah, sure. Just admit you missed me. Having a hard time keeping up, Naruto was about to signal his clones start getting explodey. Before you do anything, know that those mirrors took my full-strength fireball and didn't budge. We're going to need something with a lot more power. Oh, I've got something alright. Figured out how to direct the blast of my clones' wrist bombs now. A creepy chuckle leaving his mouth, Naruto was ready to show off. Seeing the boys starting to rally, Haku blurred between all of the mirrors again, readying more Senbon while a half-hand seal formed even more made of ice. I'm sorry, but I can't let you interfere with Zabuza-sama's plans. Letting loose the weapons, it was with a heavy heart that Haku put these boys down. Knowing he wasn't going to be able to recall enough clones in time, purely on instinct Naruto grabbed Sasuke, pulling him under himself while 3 clones burst into existence. The next moment Naruto knew nothing but pain, the vision in his left eye going dark in the same moment. Under him Sasuke barely had time to register what had happened, but the feeling of something wet dripping on his face was a clue that things were not going as planned. Damn it, Tem, why don't you toughen up a bit? I'm not going to always be here to save your hide after all. Left eye a ruined mess from a needle entering through the side of his face, the rest of his body looked like a pincushion. And while the other clones had taken enough hits and dispersed, Sasuke himself was unharmed. In the end, he decided to protect you. Truly he must have been a good friend to you. It's a pity that it has to end this way. Goodbye. Conjuring more ice needles, Haku ready to end this. Feeling something inside of him change and feeling a heat in his eyes that he'd never felt before, Sasuke didn't feel like stopping the hot tears breaking free. You doby. You aren't supposed to sacrifice yourself for me. I've been shitty to you, all of us have. You're supposed to be Hokage one day, aren't you? You can't die if you're gonna make that happen, can you? Feeling his clones closing in, a strange calm washing over him, Naruto nodded, "You're right, Tem. I can't let it end here." Grabbing a fistful of the red-eyed Uchiha's shirt, Naruto heaved the boy out and through the gaps in the dome to land at Sakura's and Tazuna's feet. "'Cause my job is to protect my precious friends, and that includes you." Starting from his navel, chakra exploded forth from Naruto, forcing loose all of the Senbon and evaporating the ice versions as well. In an instant, every mirror suddenly had a Naruto palming its surface, volatile seal bracelets glowing. "You want me dead, huh? Well, you better make it flashy." The explosions were properly directed this time and blew apart the ice mirrors with ease. One of which held the real Haku, who was sent tumbling end over end before coming to a shaky stop on legs that barely supported him. "What are you? You shouldn't be standing." Mask cracked but not broken, the fake hunter only had a moment to raise his head. Appearing directly in front of him in a body flicker, was a glowing red ninja with a dark eye reforming by the moment, and his fist was already crashing into his face. "I'm gonna be the next Hokage. And I'll be damned if I watch anyone in front of me die." And if fresh chakra coursing through him, his fist crashed into and through Haku's face mask, shattering it and tossing the now barely conscious boy on his back in a heap. Seeing his opponent down, it took a few moments for Naruto to heave a few breaths before finally calming down, the angry red chakra slowly leaving him as well. He was tired, and his eye ached, but he was happy to note his loss of vision was only temporary. Guess the bastard fox was good on its word. Walking up to the groggy boy, Naruto frowned, "So it's you. What about protecting your precious people?" Sighing and spent, Haku had for all purposes seemed to give up. "Zabuza is my most precious person. He raised me, gave me a home, saved me from the loneliness crushing down on me from the savageness of this world." Looking at Naruto, at something deeper in him, he sighed, "You know it as well, what people are willing to do to others who don't fit in, who don't belong. My mother was a victim of the bloodline purges in the mists. I only lived because I killed my father to save my own life. All I have is Zabuza, who I considered like a real father, and so I became his tool to repay that. And now I'm broken. And a broken tool can only be thrown away." Ready to bite his own tongue if needed, Haku was ready for his end. "Well, screw that. You said only the truly strong get so in order to protect their precious people, right? Well, if Zabuza is so precious to you, you've got to be just as precious to him. As a person, not as a tool. And someone like that wouldn't want you to give up so easily. You aren't just a tool, you're special to him." Not far away and deep in their own fight, Kakashi and Zabuza were both tired and nearing the end of their limits. They were, however, listening to a very impassioned blonde. "Your brat needs to learn when to leave well enough alone. Little shit. You don't know the half of it. He has a way of getting under people's skin. How about we end this then, with one last original move?" Barking out a laugh, Zabuza nodded, "An original move from you? Why, I'm honored. Let's see what you got, Kakashi." Breaking away to ready his blade, Zabuza was met with what sounded like thousands of birds chirping. Crouched and holding his right arm, Kakashi had wreathed his hand in lightning, Sharingan eye blazing for the extra reaction time. "Meet my one original move, the Chidori." Lunging forward at breakneck speeds, Kakashi was aiming straight for the heart this time. "Ha! So simple. I'll cleave you in two." At least, that was what Zabuza wanted, but that was thwarted by several dogs latching onto his extremities. "What's this? While I may get tunnel vision with this move, I've learned to work through that weakness. This is goodbye, Zabuza." Thrusting his hand forward, Kakashi was unprepared for the body that came in between the two. While Naruto had been focused on his teacher, amazed at the special technique he was using, it was Haku who was watching the scene while Naruto's own voice was ringing in his head. Mustering up the last of his strength and making one last flicker, he interposed himself between Kakashi and Zabuza, taking the attack to his chest. Silence reigned in that moment. All of the Team 7 genin surprised that the broken boy could still move enough to sacrifice himself in an attempt to protect who he considered his father figure. But it hadn't been enough. Kakashi's hand and arm piercing far enough through Haku to also break through Zabuza's sword that he had raised in defense and into his own heart as well. You idiot, you were supposed to stay down and live. Not die with an old failure like me. Tears tracking down his face, Zabuza limply fell to his knees, pulling himself free from Kakashi's hand. Pulling his arm free and recognizing the battle was over, the Leaf Junin covered his Sharingan eye and laid the dying boy in Zabuza's lap. Turning away, Kakashi could respect a worthy opponent at least in the end, and started walking away. Naruto however had come to stand next to Kakashi, face stuck somewhere between sadness and rage, not at his sensei, but at the unfairness of the world they came from. Why does it have to be this way? Hey kid, you're a useless dreamer, got more guts than brains. Using what strength he had left, he tossed the handle half of his giant cleaver to the boy who awkwardly caught it. That blade is meant for useless dreamers like you and me. Why don't you try succeeding where I failed, and change this shitty world of ours? Pausing to lean down and cradle the boy in his lap, Zabuza's voice fell to a whisper, now like me sleep with my son, I think I deserve the rest. I clouded by tears and cradling the surprisingly light blade, Naruto did as his sensei and turned away, allowing the two not-so-enemy ninja their peace. At least until a crossbow bolt landed not far from their feet, and a cackle met their ears. Well well well, so much for the demon of the mists. More like a kitten if you ask me. Getting cheers and shouts from a crowd of mercenaries and thugs, the shorter-than-average shipping magnate known as Gato held up a hand. Listen up. Leave the girl but kill the rest, a good bounty to whoever brings my the ninjas' heads. They're worth a lot of money after all. His proclamation getting cheers, the crowd started across the bridge. Rage building in his chest, Naruto didn't spare any though.